they're definitely very good passing the ball. They have great athletes all around the board. They have a really good quarterback, really good receiver. Their quarterback finished in the Heisman race. So, when you have opportunities to play against guys like this, you definitely want to capitalize. And games like this is where, you make a name for yourself. And, we just can't wait to go out there and just play Michigan football.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. That right there, Mike Sainristill, number 0. Captain, 5'10", 185 pounds from Everett, Massachusetts. Mikey, as he is known by his teammates and coaches, made the outstanding play against the Buckeyes tight end this year down in the Horseshoe, where Michigan beat Ohio State 45-23 after beating Ohio State 42-27 last year. Welcome in to Good Afternoon Michigan Football here on the Maize and Blue Review. I'm Dennis Fithian. It's great to be with you on this Wednesday, the 14th. Guess what? We're going to be talking about Michigan football today. That's what we do every day. We're live at 1 o'clock. Talking about the latest in Michigan sports. And today it is a lot to do with football. We've got some breaking news coming your way. Let's just get that out of the way. It has to do with former Michigan tight end, speaking of captains, Eric All. Eric All is transferring. He is in the portal, and now he is out of portal, and he is going to Illinois. Just kidding. He's not going to Illinois. He's going to Iowa, which we suspected. You suspected, I suspected, and our suspicions were correct. Eric All will be playing for the Iowa Hawkeyes coming up next year with, I presume, quarterback Cade McNamara. So there you go. You got that breaking news out of the way. As far as Michigan today and what we are going to be discussing, we have a continuation. You get towards the end of the year, and you'll see these, best play of the year, best team of the year, best coach of the year. And with Michigan having the kind of season that they have had this year, it's a lot of fun to go through and talk about the specifics of their season and have some fun with it. Yesterday, we talked about the best throw and biggest throw. Today, we're going to running the football, best and or biggest run of the year. We want to hear from you on it, but we're going to start a week from today is the early signing period in college football. And a lot of people that are worried about Michigan and their recruiting effort this year. And it's understandable why people would be worried about Michigan's recruiting. They're not bringing in. They don't have any 5 stars. They barely have any. They've got some 4 stars, but they don't have any like the top 4 stars when you examine it a little bit closer. And it happens sometimes. But you would think, if we're just talking out loud here, you would think that if there was ever going to be a year where Michigan would be able to cash in and be able to, 2 years ago, before they had won the Big Ten, they hadn't won it in 17 years, 16 years. And, they had a top 10 class. So then, they won the Big Ten. You thought, this is like the last piece to show like high school players across the country. You say, hey, I'm sure that was used against Michigan. They don't know where Indianapolis is at. You want to play in the college football playoff, come play with us. Don't go to Michigan. But then Michigan broke through and went to the college football playoff last year. So you thought, that's going to be great. And now here they are again doing it. And it's not quite the windfall that I think a lot of people were expecting. So that part is very understandable. It's like, what's Michigan got to do to go out there and to put themselves into the top 10, into the top 5. This is what I thought they needed to do. That was win the Big Ten and win it, as Brady Hoke would say, multiply. Win it more than one time. And so not doing that, it is a little bit bizarre. But I'm going to look at why I think that, and if you listen to me last week, I said I'm not that worried about the situation here. So why wouldn't I be worried after just saying all that? And Michigan right now, if you look, their class on Rivals, I just looked this morning. They their class is ranked number 26, so they're not even in the top 25 after last year being in the top 10. And like we said, it's understandable why you look at that and you're scratching your head, or you want them to do better. You're hoping that they can do better. You think they should have done better. It's understandable. Well, one of the things, the reason not to worry is that in Jim Harbaugh's 8 years, he has also had a class that was similar to where this one sits right now. Now they can move way up if they grab some players. I don't know about getting into the top 10, but could they certainly get into the top 25? Obviously they can if they're sitting at 26, top 20, top 15. It depends who they add, how far they end up over the next week, flipping guys, whatever. Who knows where they'll end up finishing. But right now, outside of the top 25. But if you go back to the 2018 class, it's one of these things with Harbaugh that was a wobble. Michigan had done a very good job. I remember they landed one of the biggest recruits ever, certainly the number one recruit that one year when they got Rashawn Gary. And, they have pulled in 5 stars, not to the tune of, Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, and Clemson, but, some. But you look back to the 2018 class, and that was a class that was ranked number 24. And out of that class, there are a number of the players that were pivotal in Michigan's run, not only this year, but last year. And you look through it and you say, wow, that guy. And a host of those players were 3 stars. So that's one reason not to worry. Michigan, they're identifying their players, and maybe they didn't think that they were sitting there at 24. Maybe they thought they had a top 10 class, because if we looked at it now, the 2018 class, you wouldn't say that it was, if we were ranking them now. And they always say that, like you'll hear that over the next week. You say, well, we can't know anything about these recruiting classes until 2, 3, 4 years. Well, then in 2, 3, and 4 and 5 years, nobody goes back and then ranks them. Like Texas A&M had this great, and Miami had these great classes that they were out there paying for last year, but half of their classes are now in the portal. So were they really? Did the Aggies have the number one recruiting class last year? They did, but where would it sit right now? Would it even be in the top 25? Like, where would the Canes class be, or Florida, who did a pretty good job? And I'm not like sitting here like, oh, Michigan's so smart and they got it all figured out. I'm not. I'm just saying that we always say that you got to wait, 3, 4 years to rank these classes and then figure it out. But then we don't really do that. And then if we do, and you look back and you say, well, this isn't really a big reason to worry, because, Michigan, the experts are great. And we use it as a guide to see, what kind of players that they think that Michigan got. But you go back and look, and, maybe Michigan thought they had a lot better class than the experts thought that they had. So, that's one reason I would say not to worry. The other one, and I think this is the best one, and it's Jim Harbaugh. Now, not that, Jim Harbaugh has every single thing figured out or whatever else, but where Jim Harbaugh is sitting right now, probably at home with his feet up, maybe calling some recruits. Maybe he's in his office showing I don't know what he's doing. But I mean, right now, figuratively, right now, Jim Harbaugh has the most power that he has ever had when it comes to being a coach. And it's pretty obvious why, like the position that they're in, getting ready to go to the college football playoff. Any way that he could have more power is if he beat TCU and then won it all. He would have even more power. It would be, he would be the most powerful coach in all of football. That's not an exaggeration. Nick Saban's Nick Saban's pretty powerful, and he is number one right now. But the latest coach to win the championship, that's the guy that's got a lot of power. And the power in the North, and the power that Jim Harbaugh would have, Jim Harbaugh could say, I want $100 million. He could say that. And Michigan would have to give it to him. Jim Harbaugh might say, I want $125 million. I know those things sound crazy. I know. Jim Harbaugh might say, I want $125 million. And Michigan may have to go out there and give it to him if they want to continue on. So if Jim Harbaugh is looking at the lay of the land in recruiting, and he's not getting the players that he knows that it's going to be necessary, whatever his system is and ranking or anything else, if he goes out there and says, I'm just my sales pitch of transformative over transactional is not working. Well, Jim Harbaugh, he just needs to tell whoever. He doesn't have to come out and say it at a news conference, but he needs to tell who. Let's guess. Who? What are you, an owl? No, you know who he needs to tell. He doesn't have to write the North Pole. He just needs to write down at Main Street. Santa. He needs to tell Santa, and he needs right there on State Street to tell Ward Manuel, his athletic director, and he needs to tell his president. And they need to go to the regents and say, look, we've got a pretty good thing going right now. No, wait, scratch that. Let me step back. We've got a great thing going right now. You know that stadium that we can all see over there that fits 110,000? And you got all the luxury boxes and everything else. You want those jam-packed? You want those full? But everybody excited about a back-to-back Big Ten winner, and you want to keep it going? You want to keep this thing going? You want the fun to continue? The excitement in Ann Arbor to keep going? You know what you do? Whatever Jim Harbaugh says. And it sounds a little bit like, but I think we all know we can cut through it. If Jim Harbaugh wants $125 million, he gets it. If Jim Harbaugh wants to find a way to get players where, they tried it this way, the transformational way, and the winning takes care of everything way. It seemed like actually a pretty decent plan. Now you could say, wow, you're really banking on winning. Well, they did it. Here they are. And I'm sure Harbaugh I'm sure he's a little frustrated. I would think that he would be frustrated when he's calling up some of the best players in the country and saying, hey, actually, you know what I said a couple of years ago? Who's got it better than us? It's actually, that was just a saying. I was just, that was just throwing that out there. But actually right now it's true. Nobody has it better than Michigan. And Harbaugh could be on the phone saying, nobody has it better than us. And the 5-star would say, I want a guaranteed $300,000, Jim. Jim's, oh. So actually, places in College Station out of Texas, they actually do it. When it comes to getting those signing bonuses, there's a lot of teams that have it better than Michigan, but everything else. So if Harbaugh, that's the reason, as I sit here and said, I am going to allow, you are too, give him a break. He's tried to go at it this way. They have died on this particular hill, but look at everything else. Nobody's got it better. And Michigan is sitting here like with Jim Harbaugh going back to back. You look back to the class, he had that wobble. And, they've had a good start in 24. That's why I say a week out from the early signing period, which is the bigger one, than February 1st, National Signing Day, because all the big fish have landed, have been caught, or have chosen. Bad analogies. They've picked their schools. Before I get to why there could be some reasons to worry, let's see what the people are saying. Let's go to Gold member Shane. Look at this. Sugar Shane is the first up. And what's Sugar Shane saying? He's saying, hey, you're going to have a Merry Christmas, Dennis, is what he's saying. Thank you. We'll give you a sounder, Shane. Shane says he's been very pessimistic on the 23 and 24 classes, but believe 23 will finish strong. He's got some optimism. And he thinks that Michigan will get into the top 15 to 18, along with some key portal pickups. Oh, you forget about the portal pickups. And then here he is. Shane, you were on top of it. Jaden Davis. Guess what? We are going to be talking about Jaden Davis coming up here very quickly, but let's do it right now because Shane has mentioned him. Jaden Davis commit this month. Prayer emoji. Let's do it. The college football gods. If we're sitting here thinking about Bob Ufer up in football's Valhalla, Bob Ufer should send down Jaden Davis and a commitment to Michigan. Now, you say this month. I don't know if that's the timeline for sure, Shane. Again, I'm no recruiting guru, recruiting expert. I hope he commits today. I don't think that's happening, but you say this month. I say maybe next month. I don't know exactly about that timeline. It could happen at any time. Hey, as long as it happens, right? Shane's saying this will unleash a 24 top class. Let's go ahead and this will be the third one that I have been able to do. Let me get the picture up here. I've been screenshotting some of my favorite instant feedbacks. Let's go ahead and do this one. And cheese. I don't like my smiles. Maybe I should just take the picture. Good job, Shane. I'm with you. Thank you very much. Let's get some more feedback in here. Antoine says Hogan Anderson and Jason Hewitt. Dennis, look those two guys up on YouTube. They have film. Those two recruits will be stars. I'm calling it now. Maybe will be some good stuff to show the people today. Oh, today. Well, these guys are for not this upcoming class in 23, but for 24, right, Antoine? And you mentioned these guys this week. I think it's a good suggestion. Now, today I already have the show planned. I put some preparation in before it comes on. I would like to watch it a little bit and then be able to put it in a package that would be very deliverable to everybody, the watchability, and for the broadcast where everybody can say, hey, take out the best and look at it. But yeah, we'll look at that film. I promise, Antoine, that over the I don't know, we're mowing on up to New Year's Eve. We got a football game and we got the early signing period for 23. You want to come over the top with 24? Okay. I promise I'll get to those. I'm going to try to next week. If I don't get to it next week and I'm sitting over here and it sounds like I don't know or I don't have anything to talk about, you come back in there and say, hey, when are you going to watch the Anderson and Hewitt film? But I like suggestions, Antoine. It's Michigan football. It's recruiting. I think everybody would like it. It's a good suggestion. Thank you. Let's see what Travis is saying. Well, he's citing our competitors. And so while I appreciate what they all do and everything else, Travis, I'm not really about, throwing those guys, any publicity. Antoine says Michigan may not be getting the 4 or 5 stars, but you have to remember those players only stick around for a year or two. Michigan doesn't have large turnover to deal with. Well, you mean transferring out? I mean, like the idea is to be able to get a 5-star. You have to stay for at least 3, Antoine, before you go pro. But you're saying, bolting to the portal, that factors in. Let's just be, let's see, try not to say, let's be honest. I want to be honest all the time. What would be best for Michigan is if they had the plan that they have and how they're producing on the field and the projections of their recruits and the way they're bringing them in and the way that they're developing. All of that's good. But if they could mix in some, high caliber type recruits, they don't need to put out a Texas A&M. They don't need to actually literally, back up the Brinks truck for these guys and hand these guys the bags of cash like Texas A&M and Miami and what Michigan State thought that they were going to do. Like, we'll just pay these guys. There's a little bit more to just coming out and writing the biggest check. Texas A&M, what do you want? Oh, you want 100,000? Here you go. Miami, you want $1 million? Here you go. Michigan State, it's like, we've got this rich guy, we're not telling you how much money they're donating. Even if you ask with the Freedom of Information Act, we're going to make you, file a complaint and go through the rigmarole and everything else when you could have just released the information. But no, Michigan State, it's not working for them either. You need a more complex plan than just writing the biggest check. But I think Michigan, if they had selective payments, that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping for selective signing bonuses. And I know that's, against the rules, the Michigan rule, not against what if everybody else is doing it and Michigan's not, here's T. Smith, who says, the best news for Michigan fans is that OSU's recruiting is down. In 21, OSU landed 7 5 stars. Now they're only getting 1 or 2. Yeah, I saw Ohio State complaining about, it sounded like, I know it's weird to say, it sounded like Michigan fans. What about name, image, and likeness? We can't compete with the SEC schools. We can't compete with Florida. We can't compete with Texas A&M. They're paying too much money. That's my whining Ohio State fan voice. Yeah. Well, I guess that is good news that they're not getting 5 or 7 5 stars. They're down to like 1 or 2. Sam's out here praying. Yeah, let's pray, Sam. Let's pray. This is a smiling emoji from Sam, which I appreciate. Let's get to Mark, who's weighing in on Michigan recruiting a week away from the early signing period. He says, I don't see any university sending donors directly to the players. I don't see any university sending donors directly to the players. It will be like the NHL in the Gordie Howe era, or MLB sitting players in September close to hitting bonuses. Going back to Black Sox movie lore. Owners, for signing bonuses and things like that, and sitting guys so they don't get their bonuses. Yeah, you do that. And the thing that you don't, I hear what you're saying, but the reason that you don't want to do that, if you're a college, if I was sitting in there and this was presented to me, I'd say, you don't want to have a bad reputation with high school coaches and with high school players. If you come off as sitting players down to save a couple bucks, they're not going to go to you. They don't want to go to you. Jacksonville Jaguars a couple years ago, they were doing some stupid things with their players, trying to, hide some bonuses or some cut some players. I mean, that happens, but they were trying to cut them when the injuries had already happened that they should have covered. And the NFL players were like, we don't want to go to that hellhole in Jacksonville. These guys are the cheapest MFers out there. Do you think they're going to be able to sign? And then Jacksonville did some PR and they were able to work back from it. But you don't want that kind of bad public relations, Mark, if you're a college and going on the cheap or something like that. Here's Shane again, Sugar Shane. This time he's highlighted in blue. Jaden said his time frame was year end, for your information. Ooh, I like it. I like Shane when I come at him with I'm not sure your time frame is correct. He comes back at me like, no, I think my time frame is correct. Shane does not go back on what he had to say about Jaden Davis's time frame and projected to recruit. It was something that I saw earlier, just to be honest, Shane, as I was looking at the Maize and Blue Review. And it actually was not a reporter. It was from an outstanding member of the Maize and Blue Review who said that the timeline had moved back. So I have not been able to, confirm, I guess, or deny, the Davis timetable of commitment. Just that somebody said not so fast. But I appreciate you coming back and also sticking to your guns. And I also know, man, when I get into talking about recruiting, I like recruiting. I follow recruiting, but you guys, there are people. You call yourself a recruit, Nick. You know more than than everybody. I mean, it is. Like I've made this analogy before. I'm going to make it really quickly here, and I'll get some more feedback, and then I'll go into where I think the best and biggest runs for Michigan this year is, and why maybe you could be worried about recruiting. I like playing poker. I've said it a number of times. Texas Hold'em. You get your cards, but you play in just a tournament fashion. You could be sitting there for hours, and you might not play. One out of every 5, maybe 10 hands. I mean, you can sit there, and there's a lot of time, especially if they're not holding the players to any. Then people could sit there. My point is that it is a long play, hours. Of Texas Hold'em. My dad did not like Texas Hold'em. He liked dice. And he liked slot machines. You know why? Because it was constant. Boom, boom, boom. And that's what recruiting is. Recruiting is, man, you don't have to play any long game. It's every day. It's constant. There's always something going on. And when you get close to signing day, you go to next class. You're already, and now, and we see it now. You used to wait to 23, and then the people that were getting ahead of, the National Signing Day, the day after February 2nd, I'd say, we're already getting started on 24. And everybody would be like, wow, we just went this whole campaign and now we're starting anew. Now you're already talking about 24. Hell, some people are talking about 25. I like it. Let's get back to it here. Venice has not liked Mike Hart's recruiting running backs. Well, I think that we have to wait and see about CJ Stokes. I think the jury is out just because somebody, isn't the greatest thing ever as a running back. And I know, I don't know, does Hart not get credit for Donovan Edwards because what was Hart not the running backs coach? And then so we're just talking about Stokes. I mean, what if Cabana ends up being like this outstanding running back, or didn't they get another one this class from Georgia, Benjamin Hall, and then he's getting moved up. He's a 4-star. I mean, what if Hall or Cabana? I mean, I don't know if that's fair or not. Venice. I think that you're not the first person that I've seen say this, but I don't think that's fair. And look, the recruiting part, I mean, does Mike Hart get any credit? I think he does. I'm going to spoil my my question. Mike Hart gets some credit for having Blake Corum run like a wild man this year and have himself in position to win the Heisman Trophy. If he wouldn't got hurt, he'd have had a hell of a chance at winning it. I'm going to give some credit to his running back coach, Michigan Mike Hart. Great job, Mike Hart. I'll give him a pat on the back. Oh, yeah. And when he goes down, what about his backup? Oh, he's a 5-star. Okay. Did Mike Hart have anything to do with the development of Donovan Edwards? I'm going to go ahead and give him some credit. I mean, he's had 2 of the greatest running backs of all time under his tutelage. Like, let's not be looking down and like, hey, Benjamin Hall's not a 5-star. I mean, these two guys are 4 stars. Take it back, Venice. I am surprised that 5-star running backs and the pick of the litter guys are not out there. The Derek Greens from yesteryear, or whatever else, Kelly Baracas, that these guys are not, running up to Michigan saying, you guys run the ball every time. I'm in. I would think that they would. So that's a little bit surprising, but I'm not down at all on Mike Hart, the coach, or Mike Hart, the recruiter. I don't think anybody else should be either. Troy wanting to know who Jaden Davis is interested in. Is Clemson a possibility? Clemson's always a possibility, although Clemson just took a quarterback for the 24 class. So that pretty much rules them out. But it was a long way to go. I mean, look at Dante Moore's visited UCLA this past week. He's already been committed for a while to Oregon. These guys are flipping. These guys are flopping. And, Michigan, everything looks great with Michigan and Jaden Davis, except the actual commitment. Michigan has got it all the way right up to the finish line. Here we are. Michigan has moved the ball all the way down the field. They're at the 1-inch line. They just need to punch it in with Jaden Davis. Let's see what happens. Venice wants Hart to step it up. Okay. Ohio State is complaining a lot about name, image, and likeness. That's right. Jay gets the credit for Donovan Edwards, not Mike Hart. Well, he gets some credit for his development this year. Let's just do it. Let's give him the credit. AJ saying Michigan has never been a high-level 4 or 5-star recruiting school because of its academic standards and rules. However, I believe Michigan's development is the best in the country. Well, I would say as of late, and where are you at if you're not as of late? I would say recently, all of the things that you had to say there is right. It was only 2 years ago that I could sit around and complain about Michigan's development with 5 stars. I could complain about Michigan's development with quarterbacks. And I could complain about Michigan recruiting all over the place. Right now, I don't have any complaints about it. That's where it's going back again to my position of not feeling all that bad about where Michigan sits with the week to go before early signing period. Mark says, Northwestern, Rutgers still get an equal share of the $7 billion for losing. What is the real return and who captures it? Billionaires want value for money. I don't see Mel Tucker sharing his money with the players or coaches. You want the return on investment from donors. I don't know. There's a good point to it. My opinion, and I say I'm not going to drag everything out and talk about NIL, but here I am talking about recruiting, and NIL is a factor, and there's the question about it. I said yesterday, and I'll say it again, I think there's a lot of people, when they talk about name, image, and likeness, no matter how much money they have, they just expect that people with more money are going to take care of it. I don't know, you can make 6 figures, you can have $1 million in the bank, but you're not like, I'm not contributing to Michigan. You already give to charitable, you already make contributions to a lot of charities. You pay big money for, Michigan tickets and merchandise. You're maybe putting your own kids through school, and you're saying, I'm not coming over the top and giving thousands of dollars for the players. I'm going to let the millionaires do that. Well, I got news for you. The millionaires for Michigan, and there's a lot of them out there. I don't think that they have been involved for how many ever years, decades. And Michigan's position has always been, give us money. We want this across the board, not just for football or basketball. We want it for our facilities. We want it for the Olympic sports. We want it for our infrastructure. We are above board on, all of these rogue schools. We don't want any of that. We're playing it. This is Michigan. Those people that have a lot of money, they're giving their money to charities that they really care about. And so now you get all these other Michigan fans saying, hey, how about, cutting us out, a couple million for the players? And they're like, I don't know. All right. Again, I need like a statement on name, image, and likeness, maybe, and I'll get that. And if I can cut it down to like 10, 20 seconds, and I'll just play it. Lyle says he knows that name, image, and likeness matters. Odds we keep our coaches. Well, it depends. We've already seen Sharon Moore was up for a couple of these jobs. He didn't even want to, head Western on the other end of the line, and he didn't even take the call. Mike Hart interviewed for Western, but he ultimately stayed here. These are things that, right now there's going to be some more movement, but, I don't worry about that. You got your top guy. I know there's things to talk about and get excited about, but Michigan lost both of their coordinators last year, and Harbaugh replaced them with two guys that are doing a better job this year. And if you believe how Harbaugh has put this together in the way that he has got to this point right now, Michigan has 4 coordinators. So they're pretty good. They've got Weissmore as their offensive coordinators, Matt Weiss and Sharon Moore, and then they got Minter Klink as their co-defensive coordinators, Jesse Minter and Steve Klinkstale. So they've got 4. So they're in a pretty good position. And if I had to predict right now, do I think Weissmore comes back? I do. Do I think Minter Klink comes back? I do. Just remember this. A lot of you sane fans heading into the Ohio State game wanted Weiss out. He wasn't good with quarterbacks, even though he's a quarterback guy. If Michigan needed a passing game coordinator, JJ couldn't get the ball down the field. Let's get rid of Weiss. But I think people feel pretty good about Weissmore now and Minter Klink. Obviously, Minter Klink. I don't know what you could say negatively about Minter Klink. These guys, nobody even questions him. You get to halftime and Michigan's, losing to Rutgers. And you're kind of like, Minter Klink's over there. They're coming out. They're all right. What were they in the Big Ten championship game? I wasn't sweating that at all. That was a close game. It was 14-13. I was sitting there at halftime. My wife like, this is a pretty close game. I'm like, Michigan's going to kill them. Got them right where they want them. All right, here's some reasons now to go to the other side about why you might be worried. These are the reasons not to worry. Reasons that you could worry. If Michigan does not land Jaden Davis, I'll get worried. Now, this is the test case. I've given Michigan and Jim Harbaugh a lot of room here to operate. I've even let them sacrifice this upcoming class going about recruiting and name, image, and likeness, in their business plan that they wanted to, and said, hey, good luck. Even though I don't agree with it, and I haven't really from the start, there's a lot of smart people with Michigan. However, even though, it doesn't seem like it, it seems all that smart, I wanted to see what they were going to do. And they were going to, give it a shot this year and see how it worked. And I figured, if it wasn't all that good, that they would make some adjustments. But if they don't land Jaden Davis, like Michigan put all of their eggs in the Dante Moore basket and they came up empty. And that forced them now to it's on to Jaden Davis. If Michigan does not get Jaden Davis, there's a problem. That doesn't mean anybody needs to get fired, but, do I think that they need to, take a look at, their strategy when it comes to, landing top players? They've got everything that you could possibly want at Michigan. Nobody's got it better than Michigan, except teams that are giving up front money. So if they don't land Jaden Davis, they need to look at themselves in the mirror and come up with a different plan. That's my advice to them. So I'm waiting to see what's going to happen with Jaden Davis. The other thing, and, this has been cited as a problem for Michigan, but is it a problem? You'll see, why Michigan can't get a Dante Moore, maybe why they can't get a Jaden Davis. Michigan runs too much. Why would a great quarterback want to come to Michigan and hand the ball off 40 times a game and only throw it 15 times a game? Now, I don't think that that's a problem. It's not like Michigan is Navy. And they have J.J. McCarthy. And you might have thought that through the year, like, this guy's more of a runner, and, can he really throw? But look at J.J. McCarthy. He was throwing the ball against Ohio State. He was throwing the ball against Purdue in the Big Ten title game. A running game and an offensive line are a quarterback's best friend. And because of, I think prior to November 25th, there was a little bit to that. I didn't, even though I still was like, look at McCarthy, he's pretty good and he's a 5-star, a guy's going to really be worried about, not being able to throw it too much. But then Ohio State happened, and then the Big Ten title game happened. And I think that's pretty much like, you want to play in the, old air raid Mike Leach offense where you're throwing the ball 60 times a game. There's a lot of teams that are out there, but do you want to win? You still want to throw? All these things. Where are we at? Are you developing quarterbacks? Are you putting them in the pros? Like Harbaugh's got one right now. Does Harbaugh have the best quarterback in the country? No. He's got one of them, though. And next year, he might have the best one. So I don't buy totally. I did a little bit before the Ohio State game, but I'm not buying it as much now about recruiting where, it's Michigan running the ball too much. And then there's name, image, and likeness, and we've talked about that, and we talk about it all the time, and you just go round and round and round. Michigan needs to get their act together. Michigan doesn't want to pay recruits. Michigan doesn't want to give them upfront money. Michigan doesn't want to make any promises, blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera. So wherever you fall on that, but, that could be a problem. And I think you're going to talk, we are a lot more, unfortunately, if number one doesn't happen. And number one is Davis. And I hate to put, it's true. No one player is bigger than the university, but there's always, pivotal points, watershed moments, and everything else. Michigan has everything in the world going for them. Everything. Except a flow of the top players. And they got to get Davis. They got to get Jaden Davis. And so I'm hanging in there until that. All right. Let's get some more feedback up here before we get to the best runs and throw. Best and biggest runs. We did throws yesterday. Ty says he's surprised that the running back recruiting hasn't been boosted by the style of play for Michigan. Where are all the 5-stars? I don't know, Ty. I don't have the answer for that. They're taking money. That's my answer. And if you want to know, I think that they're getting, especially running backs. Their shelf life is extremely short. In the NFL, they look at them like second-class citizens. If you're a 5-star coming out of high school, there are people telling them, "Look, man, you've only got so many carries. You better get some guaranteed money. You've put yourself in position. You better take the most guaranteed money." That's why the 5-stars aren't going to Michigan. That would be my guess. Now, what do I know? I know a lot. I think you agree with that. I think everybody's out there shaking their head. Oh, yeah, that's why. Antoine is predicting in the future, Michigan will start getting a bunch of Olus walking through the door. Well, it's a nice prediction, as much as we talk about the transfer portal, but there was no better transfer out there in college football this year than Oluwatimi, and Michigan did land him, so that was great. And then on the defensive side, late in the game, Michigan was able to get Okie, who also, and he's coming back next year. That looked like a major land out of the portal. So I hope your prediction is correct, Antoine. Mark is making, let's just read it here. He says, only about 35 colleges make money on sports. The rest subsidize it. This will cut half of them. Easy to spend someone else's money. Look what you have to do for money. Money, yeah, there's a lot of money. I don't know. There's really, I think there's, we say 35. Let me think about that. Well, the amount of money that the Big Ten gets from just their TV money for the Big Ten network is pretty substantial. It was 50 million, and is it like 70 some odd million now? And I know that's not all football, but let's be honest, it's mostly football. So there's 14. How many teams in the SEC? So then, maybe 35 is about right. Maybe 35 is about right. Yeah, here's more Mike Hart slander. Yeah, I'm just not really, Venice. I like your and Ty. I like you guys contributing and everything else. And you guys aren't in a club of one. I see people criticizing Mike Hart and his recruiting effort all along, all the time. But it's just not where I'm at. I'm on the other side of that with you guys. I like Mike Hart as a coach. And I think what he did this year, you guys are not giving him the credit. And then he's got two guys. And it actually, he's got Stokes. And look at when Edwards and Corum were hurt, who do you think had Isaiah Gash catching that on fourth down? Was Mike Hart not getting any credit for that? It was a running back. Wasn't it Hart, after the kid dropped it, that he came over and said, look, we're going to give you another crack at it? If Hart didn't think so, he would say, let's not go to Gash. Oh, yeah. What about one of the greatest surprise trick plays in Michigan history that took place in their best drive of the year? And I'll say one of their best drives in the history of Michigan football. And it's not overstating it. That was the drive that took place at the end of the third into the fourth quarter with a 4-point lead down at Ohio State this year. 15 plays, 81 yards, 751. You know what Michigan did on a third down? We talked about it for 10 minutes yesterday. They took a converted linebacker to running back and had him throwing a jump pass, the first one in the history of college football, at least that I remember, that wasn't done on the goal line, for a first down. Did Mike Hart not get any of the credit for that? What are you guys doing? Mike Hart's not getting any 5 stars. You guys, come on. I know, it's just a lot of fun. You guys act like you're serious about it. Mike Hart in recruiting. I think Mike Hart's doing a good job. And watch out, in 10 years, if I had to predict in 10 years who's going to be the next Michigan head coach, I think it's going to be Mike Hart. Michigan Mike Hart. You guys just getting in early on Mike Hart. Mark says Stokes looks pretty good. Troy says Cabana looks pretty good. Venice coming back over the top. Doesn't like his recruiting. All right. Venice doesn't think Hall's a 4-star. He's dropped off. Smiling emojis. Well, maybe Mike Hart can't give running backs who have the shortest lifespan of any football player, and the 5 stars are all being told that, and they're saying you better take the upfront money regardless of everything, whether you like school, whether you like anything, you take the money now. Don't you think that's being said to them, Venice? So, you want to criticize Mike Hart and his recruiting effort? Go ahead and go right to the top. And then you go to Harbaugh, you go to the athletic director, then go to the president. Because that's the hill they're on. If you find Santa, say, hey, Santa, running backs, their average lifespan, they're completely disrespected in the NFL. Remember Mel Kiper a couple years ago? I would never take a running back in the first 3 rounds. These guys are a dime a dozen. Meanwhile, San Francisco's out there, trading the mother load for Christian McCaffrey. I don't know. I still think they're pretty valuable, but their average length of their career, because of the punishment that they take. These guys are not the kids in high school that are getting the stars. They're taking the money. Like quarterbacks are taking the money too, but I could get it more of the quarterback because, the development of a quarterback. I think the quarterback understands the quarterback is going to make so much more money than everywhere else. You go to a place like Michigan, how much money is J.J. McCarthy, actually going to make in the offseason this year? He's going to make, I don't know. Throw a number out there. $10 million? It sounds crazy. 125 for Harbaugh, 10 for JJ. Mike Hart's offering, hey, you the 5-star recruit. Venice wants the 5-star recruit, and the 5-star recruit's like, well, I'm going to need. We're getting 500 from USC, 500,000. Mike Hart's, offering him in 3 years. I don't know what he's offering them. You got to look a little deeper. Come on, Venice. Venice is not high at all on Benjamin Hall. Michigan found Corum and Charbonnet. Amazing upgrade. Yeah. A little recruiting argument. I like it. Let's get to our next thing. And that is, I want to hear you look back at this season, the best and biggest runs from Michigan. First, I want to tell you about the Maize and Blue Review. And yeah, you want to act like Santa Claus for yourself? Give yourself the gift of the Maize and Blue Review this holiday season. We're talking about recruiting, and Michigan's supposed to get some great news. When? Today. Tonight. You want to know what that great news is before everyone else? Well, that's why you sign up to the Maize and Blue Review. You give yourself the gift of knowledge, of more Michigan knowledge than anybody else. Get that premium access today for a full year for $22. Use the code MBR Holiday. That is MBR Holiday. Okay, let's get to this video. This is, as I can get to it. I thought I had it blown up, but I don't now. Let's see if I can get it there. Take me a second. Bring it back here. Bring it back. So, the reason, usually you don't like ties, and I put on, Michigan best and biggest run, because I think we would all agree it's going to be one or two when you talk about biggest runs for Michigan. And yet it gets back to Michigan's 2 great running backs that they had this year. Corum had a lot of great runs. This first drive down at Bloomington, look at the move he puts on here. He's got like 3 or 4 guys that have 1, 2, runs through them, 3, 4. I'm going to count them again. 5, 6. And they said he was down at the 1, which was terrible. I counted 6 missed tackles. Let's do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. And this guy, is this a missed tackle? This guy get a hand on him? No, he doesn't even get a hand on him. So 5. I don't know. Number 1 didn't give much of an effort there. To me, this is the best run of the year for Michigan. But, Corum, I could put another 5 runs on the board. And you can say, well, what about that one? What about that one? And you're going to be right. The point here is that Blake Corum had a lot of outstanding runs this year. He really did. And let's remember this. I've already said it once, but I'm going to say it again. Blake Corum was damn near, was that close, to winning the Heisman Trophy as a running back. If he didn't get hurt against Illinois, he would have had a shot. You want to say he had a 50% shot, 40%, whatever it was. He had a pretty good shot. 50% shot's pretty good. I don't know. Would he have run for 200 yards against the Buckeyes? He could have. If he was healthy. Look at this dude. I never get tired of watching Blake Corum. He's great. And so I thought that was Michigan's best run of the year. First drive against Indiana, jump cut, slither, cut again, into the open field. Are they going to catch him? Nope. Tell me where he's down. Does his knee hit? Hey, that's stupid that they called that down. Is the referees. But guess what? They gave him the ball on the very next play, and he went in for a touchdown. Did Mike Hart. So that gets us to the biggest run of the year. And I think we're all going to agree on where, this one. And for that, I'm going to put it up on the screen. I think that it's going to be in the Ohio State game. And it's one of two runs. You want to pick the run from 75 yards, or do you want to pick it from 85 yards? I think you can make a case. You can make a case. I'm telling you, you can. You can make a case for both. And here it is. This is the one I picked because it's an 8-point game. And the 85-yarder actually seemed a little bit easier for him. This one, he had to tiptoe a little bit down the sideline, and there was a guy that had a little bit of an angle on him, but let's look at it a little closer. Look at that. This guy had a little bit. He just runs past him. Oh, yeah. He had a break a tackle. The other one, he went untouched for 85 yards. That was the biggest run of the year. And things were looking good for Michigan. They really were. They were looking really good. Okay, you're going to stop it? That's fine. Things were looking really good. And then that happened. And then the 85-yarder, that's when, pandemonium sets in. You're pretty close to pandemonium with the 75-yarder. But then they come back the very next series and rip off an 85-yarder. I don't even know. I mean, if you're already completely ecstatic and, over the moon, and then what do you do 5 minutes later when, lightning strikes twice? I don't know. But so for me, the best run, the first drive at Bloomington, Michigan, 5 plays, 75 yards, that 50-yard run by Blake Corum, and then the 75-yarder by Donovan Edwards in the fourth quarter. The first of back-to-back runs of 75 and 85 yards, which is incredible. And it was pretty awesome for Donovan Edwards. Okay, let's get back to it. People are now throwing down old-time Michigan backs. And there you are. Got a couple of them on there. Here's Rob saying the Don and Corum, 2 of the best to do it at Michigan. Of course, there's going to be a drop-off. Yeah, well, when you get a guy that was poised to win the Heisman, and then you get the one-arm bandit, yeah, there'll be a little bit of a drop-off. It's crazy. I'm going to get some more feedback here in the remaining minutes. People, throwing some stuff out there. Van is continuing to hang on where he's at. Here's Shane. Let's get to Shane. Shane's having a great day. So am I. Courtesy of Shane. AJ, 5-star. JJ, 5-star. Dono, 5-star. Wide receivers are leading Michigan to the 23 and 24 title games. Who am I thinking of? Who's WJ? I'm looking. I guess we have to look for the highest rated recruits. Is that what you're talking about? Should I be in on that one? Oh, Will Johnson. Give me a second. Come on. Come on, Shane. It took me just a second. I did get that. Yeah, Well, that's a good point. Jim Harbaugh knows that. And even if he doesn't agree with the ranking that he has right now, he's looking at some of these players and, he's laughing at, Venice or whatever. He knows. I mean, I don't know how many guys in the country, how many running backs in the country are you give that ball to. We'll do what Donovan Edwards did on those consecutive carries down in Columbus. And I don't know the way that Corum ran the ball this year. Corum's great. What a 1-2 punch, man! I don't know. Could I just sit here for 1 hour straight and say, "Oh man, Blake Corum, can you believe it?" And then pause for a couple seconds and be like, "Oh, Donovan Edwards, oh, woo, man, are you kidding me?" Now Blake Edwards, Donovan Corum, this thing was, and it really happened all the way through. I was going through because I was looking at drives for Michigan this year in their championship season. And here's a little hint. Michigan was really great on their first drive. Like, they scored a touchdown on almost every first drive, especially when JJ was starting. They didn't. It was kind of it was a foreshadowing of this year when you write the book, and if you go through, where does this book start? It starts with the very first series of the very first game against Colorado State. And kids, gather around, because that's tomorrow what we're going to be talking about. There was a winner-take-all quarterback Donnybrook that was put together by none other than Jim Harbaugh. Dana White, Don King, eat your heart out. You had two quarterbacks, a 5-star in this quarter, a defending Big Ten champ in the other. And the very first series, it started where there was an idea about what might happen. We will get to that coming up tomorrow here on the Maize and Blue Review. I will finish up. It's always good to get some people up here that we haven't heard from in a while. And we start with AJ, who says Michigan should be recruiting 4- and 5-star talent at running back. I covered that. I don't think they're going to be able to get him. Adam, I think once Okie gets a full year in Michigan's strength and conditioning program, he can be an all-conference edge guy. Well, you think Ben Herbert is going to be able to put some strength and conditioning on the Okie frame? I agree. I agree with this. Mike Hart will be head coach at Michigan someday. Here's Venice, who's had a very interesting day here on the Maize and Blue Review. Gash. He's got a bunch of emojis. I got news for you, Venice. Did you like this year being undefeated? Because if there was no gash, there was no undefeated season. Who are you throwing the ball there to? No gash, no undefeated season for Michigan. So you can take your emojis. I don't know what you want to do with them, but those are some crying emojis. Here's Mark talking about Mullings throwing that pass again. He couldn't see. Schoonmaker threw it blind. All right. Let's see here. Here's Richard talking about Roman Wilson's video log from a couple of weeks ago, and it looked like he got an envelope full of money, and they were joking around who makes the most money. So somebody's getting money from somebody. Oh, yeah. I mean, these guys are getting money. I don't know. And these other teams, I think, are giving them more money. But these guys are already here. That's the thing. Like, it's good to get money while you're here. And Michigan, I think, is giving them great opportunities, and guys are making all kinds of money. And, that's the Michigan way. And I think these guys got a lot of nice envelopes and nice rubber band, stacks, rubber bands, whatever. Guys are getting paid. But we're talking about, the guys that have, and these are the recruits. Look at it. Does Michigan have any 5-star recruits? No. For this upcoming week? No. Do they have any highly rated 4-stars they're looking? No. Do you know why? The highly rated, the 5s and the 4s are all being offered big-time cash up front. And Michigan's not doing that. So it's going to take a very special type player to say, look, I don't want your $500,000. I'm going to wait a couple years. I don't know. It's hard. Venice is emoji game. Again, let's see if I know what all these are. Here's a crying emoji. I don't know. I don't know what that one is. Here's an emoji with blacked out eyes. And here's is that the transfer portal? I don't know. Here's one I've never thought about. Tom Brady for Michigan head coach. Bryant Williams, Sharon Moore for Michigan's next head coach. We could do a show one day. We'll just go down. The first time I ever heard Sharon Moore talk, and it was just a little news conference, Bryant, I thought, this guy's going to be a head coach somewhere one day. And could it be at Michigan? He's got a charisma, and he's got a presence at the podium. Those are hard things. Some people have it, some people don't. He's got it. Richard, Mike Hart, we were dueling. Oh, Venice finally he's saying something positive. He likes Sharon Moore as well. And you know why? Sharon Moore is a great, along with being an outstanding co-offensive coordinator and offensive line coach. And his offensive line won the award for best offensive line last year, and it's between them and Georgia this year. Venice likes that. He likes Moore as a coach, and Moore is a great recruiter. So Venice likes Sharon Moore as well. What if Sharon Moore, Venice, if you didn't think he was a great recruiter, would you say you like him also, or would you be like, no? I'm not giving him any credit for the offensive line, even though he's the coach of the offensive line. I'm not giving him any credit. And I'm not giving him any credit for the offense this year, which averaged 40 points a game, because actually, even though he's the co-offensive coordinator in the Weissmore, he's actually really not. If he wasn't a good recruiter, that's what Venice would be rolling out there with a couple different emojis in there as well. All right. Cabana. Let's see what Venice has to say about Cabana. It's nice. I like him a lot. Still need a load-carrying running back. Well, Venice, let's go out and put together a bag of cash and offer one of these 5-stars $1 million. That's how you're going to get them. Because Michigan's got everything else. Right, Jill? Michigan's going to win it next year. I like it. I like how we don't. It's the one thing, like the players. I was listening to Mike Sainristill, and when we had his audio at the beginning of the show, and he was talking about TCU.
They're definitely very good passing the ball. They have
Sounds a
great
little bit like a
athletes all
coach.
around the board.
They're good.
They have a really good quarterback. Really good receiver. Their quarterback finished in the Heisman race. So when you have opportunities to play against guys like this, you definitely want to capitalize. And games like this is where you make a name for yourself. And we just can't wait to go out there and just play Michigan football.
Just can't wait to go out and play Michigan football. But, I can't wait to New Year's Eve, but I'm looking ahead to the championship game, to be honest with you. Again, try not to say I'm honest. But I'm also, Joe, looking forward to next year as well. And I think Michigan's going to be really good next year. So I'm with you. And maybe that's just where we're at with recruiting. And that's what the people with recruiting, they're so smart about it all. Because if you do really good in recruiting in 23, that means like in 25, you're probably going to be really good. And if you're looking towards the 24 class and 25 class, it means in 28 and 29, you're going to be really good. So people are just getting ahead of everything. And Michigan's got everything going right now. And if they could really start pulling in some recruits, they could be good in 23, and 24, and 25, and 26, and 27, and 28. For the next 5 years, the way they have things going, this could be a dynasty. That's not the now that we start talking about it. Like Michigan, last year, they broke through. And it's like, oh, so great. And, the whole offseason I just sat here talking about was awesome. Everybody's like, whoa, the offseason takes such a long time. Not last year, it didn't for me. The offseason went by like that. People were counting it down. I'm like, no, all the previous off seasons, they ticked by. I was like, are you kidding me? This clock is slow. Last year went by with a flash. You know what this year's going to be like? Boom. A flash. And when you start talking about programs that are winning and getting to the college football playoffs in consecutive years, and you just keep going, it's just all there for Michigan. This recruiting piece is going to be a big deal. How, and again, they have a guy at the controls. A lot of times, you say this, and this is true. Well, you really need the president to be on board along with the athletic director and the coach. These guys all have to be rowing the same direction. They all have to be on the same page. You got to have the regents involved and everything else. Well, right now, Jim Harbaugh can walk in there and say, look, you guys sort it out. This is what I want. This is what we need. Get it done. Because out there on the field, you like that? You like what we're doing? This is what we need to continue on. And maybe it will be dollar signs for his coaches. Maybe it'll be dollar signs for the players that are on this team. Maybe they go over the top and do something like, wow, how much money is that guy getting? I mean, the name of the game in college, as much as we sit here, we talk about the experience and everything else, money, the big factor in all of this. And how you're showing it and how you're delivering it and who you're delivering it to is pretty important. Michigan's in a great spot. Tomorrow, the story of Michigan football told in possessions. The best drive of the year. And it all started from the very first time they had the ball in the opener. There was foreshadowing there that you won't believe. But you will have to tune in tomorrow to actually live it. I appreciate everybody joining us today. Don't forget, Maize and Blue Review. Great present for the Michigan fan in your life, like yourself. We'll see you on the posting board. We will see you tomorrow here at 1:00. Until then, have a great day. Goodbye. Thanks for joining us.